Today on Unity Motorsports Garage, we're going to be talking about Don Garlits. Is he drag racing's true GOAT? We're going to talk about his innovations and the things that make him truly the greatest of all time.
He calls himself King Rat, and his rivals know him as Tampa Dan, or simply Big Daddy. He's Don Garlits, the Babe Ruth, Isaac Newton, and P.T. Barnum of drag racing, all rolled into one intense, muscular body.
Don would meet his future wife in 1952. He would marry Pat February 20th, 1953. Little did they know the future that they would have together in drag racing, as he started out to be an accountant of all things. But this team would be together no matter what through the ups and downs that Don had throughout his drag racing career. It didn't take Don long to figure out that accounting really wasn't for him, so he decided to take the advice of his stepfather and open up a paint and body shop, which led to a speed shop later on. While doing this, the hot rod bug had gotten him. He used his 40 convertible Ford and started street racing like most other people. Not having drag strips, they used to run at airports that were abandoned from World War II, and you can see the crude rail jobs that he created, but it led to Swamp Rat number 1. Swamp Rat 1 would give Don the status of becoming a professional drag racer. Once he figured out the combination of running carburetors and nitro, he was pretty much unstoppable on this side of the country. He got an invitation to go to the first March meet in Bakersfield, California, and when he got there, everyone was running supercharged combinations and he still had carburetors. The next week, that changed. He had a supercharger. With his newfound power, the records then began to fall. The first one being 176 miles per hour. This was a record that was really important to Don, but he also became the first one to go over 180 miles an hour as well. All of this was fine and dandy until June 20th, 1959. Tragedy struck. Up until this point in Top Fuel racing, there had never been a major fire. That was going to change today. But Pat Garlits, having women's intuition, or you can call it a divine intervention, decided to give Don a leather jacket to wear before he made this particular run. And what you are seeing is the first ever blower explosion. It was pretty horrible. It laid Don up into the hospital for months, recuperating from major burns from all over his body. With that taking place, he decided to sell everything that he had that was drag racing related, and he put Art Malone in the car. Well, that didn't last very long until he got back into the cockpit and was at it once again. By 1963, the NHRA would lift its nitro ban and Don would head to the 1963 Winternationals. Showing up in Swamp Rat 5, you can see that this car is completely different with its new wing spoiler up top the engine. He goes and dominates. So let's go and take a look back as he races his friend Art Malone in the finals.
Now let's meet Don Garlits of Tampa, Florida, a man responsible or involved in two firsts here. One, first time they've run fuelers at an NHRA meeting, and two, that airfoil we'll get to in a moment. How are you, Don?
Hello, George.
Don, what are the speed records so far for fuelers?
Well, unofficially, the fuel record is probably around 190 and right below 8 seconds. However, this is the first time that NHRA has opened the record books for fuel, so there'll be official records after today.
What is that airfoil intended to do?
George, we've been developing that for a couple of weeks now, working on it. That's to hold the car down in the lights to keep it from skating so bad at the high speeds.
How's it worked out so far?
Well, I only made one run with it, and it was extremely stable down on the big end. However, we had a little too much pressure, and I think it slowed the car down 4 or 5 miles an hour.
The run for Top Fuel Eliminator finds Don Garlits from Tampa, Florida, going against Art Malone, also from Florida. Coming out of the tire smoke is Don Garlits, the winner in his Dodge-powered Swamp Rat 5, turning a lightning 186.32 in 8.26 seconds.
The next thing on the list was the race to the 200-mile-an-hour barrier. This is up for much debate, as if you look back through the records, Chris Karamazini, the Greek, says he's the first one who did it, and then you have Connie Coletta, who said he's the first one to actually do it in a race, so that makes him the first one. Well, the fact is, the NHRA recognizes this next pass as the official 200-mile-an-hour run. Don would pretty much live on the road during this time period, as he matched race all over the country with TV Tommy Ivo, the Greek, so on and so forth. But he had time to win the 1964 U.S. Nationals, his first of 7. But also during this time period, he moved to Detroit, of all places, to go to work for Chrysler. And during this time, it was pretty dark, dim years for him, as the corporation forced him to run the 426 Hemi. Well, the bad news was, the 426 Hemi did not run as well as the 392 did. It would take someone like Don Garlits to figure out that it didn't respond to the same timing adjustment as the 392 did. So in an effort to blow the engine up because he was tired of running it, he put over 40 degrees of advance in it, and the engine came to life, and he never looked back to the 392.
Jim Warren of Bakersfield, California. Don Garlits of Sefna, Florida. They are in the finals for the Top Fuel Eliminator Championship. Both have been very, very quick. Dodge powered for Garlits, Chrysler power for Warren. They'll move them in very carefully. Coming up out of that staging area, you'll notice when they come to the starting line, they'll clean the tires to make sure everything possible has been done to get their Warrior off on the best kind of start. Jim Warren from Bakersfield, California. Most of the crowd standing for the finals in the Top Fuel Eliminator. Garlits moving up into position. Garlits wins it. Don Garlits, smoking all the way in the near lane, wins it. Did he break 7 seconds? Let's find out if he's got the shave. The crowd yelling, screaming in excitement, and Garlits has broken the 7-second barrier. So he'll have to cut off his whiskers, and here in slow motion, Garlits across, followed by Jim Warren. So the Dodge-powered Swamp Rat from Sefna, Florida, has won the National Championship Top Fuel Eliminator competition. And somebody, I'll bet you, brings him a razor, because he made a great point all week that if he could break the 7-second barrier, he'd cut off at least some of the whiskers. 6.77 seconds for Don Garlits, 220.58 miles an hour. For Jim Warren, 6.95 seconds. And because of the finish at the top end, he's a little quicker than Garlits, 222.7. So the whiskers have had a trimming. One of the biggest crowds I've ever seen out on a drag strip cheering Don Garlits. In the winner's circle now, here's Don. Did you think you'd take the big one and come up with that kind of an ET?
Well, like I said, we had a couple of breaks there, a couple of red lights, and we knew the car had a terrific run in it, and we didn't know how many you could make like that, but with the red lights from McEwen and Sorokin, it led it where I was able to save the best for the last.
And then Don Garlits told the press, radio and television, what he sees in the future.
Well, like I say, we're going to go home. We've learned a lot from this race. This car has been great, but I think it's just a start on a certain design. As you can tell, the car doesn't look exactly like the other cars. We're going to go on with this design and some improvements, and I think the next one will even be faster.
Don would go on to win the 68 U.S. Nationals as well, the sport changing dramatically as he would invent two-speed transmissions for Top Fuel, and the word burnout would now become a regular term in drag racing vernacular.
Paoli loses on a red light but stays on it until an exploding floater plate almost cuts the car in half. Emergency crews are on the scene before Paoli even stops rolling. Of all the dangers inherent to Top Fuel racing, driveline explosions are the most feared by drivers.
Once the potent mixtures have been loaded into the fuel tanks, the car is driven through a bath of household bleach in order to cleanse the tires of foreign matter that might impede traction. When success or failure is based on particles of seconds, nothing is left to chance. The competition is so fierce that many teams are driven to the use of volatile space-age fuels in their quest for power. Life is measured in terms of seconds, merely long enough to thrust the machines 1,320 feet in a cataclysmic burst of energy. Under such extreme stresses, engine failure occurs with alarming frequency, often in a shower of flame. Although this driver escapes injury, similar mishaps take 2 lives at Indy and destroy thousands of dollars in expensive machinery. In a sport noted for its high standards of safety, the struggle against time reaches the outer limits.
During this time period, the sport of drag racing would lose a few great figures, with the first being Mike Sorokin of the Surfers Race Team, personally one of my favorite Top Fuel teams from this era, followed by John Mulligan, the Fighting Irish, the Zookeeper. He is the one who lost his life at the 1969 U.S. Nationals at Indy. Don, having developed the two-speed transmission for the Top Fuel Dragster, well, you could call it irony that he would be the first one to suffer injuries from this invention. On March 8, 1970, a driveline explosion caused him to lose part of his right foot, and as you can see by the photographs, this was a horrible accident and changed the sport of drag racing forever. With Don being laid up in a Long Beach, California hospital for months, it was none other than Tom McEwen, the mongoose, who would come and see him on a daily basis to help his morale. During this time period, they watched reruns of Star Trek together, but this is also the point where Don started getting the idea for the rear-engine dragsters. Well, people called him crazy, but he built it anyways. Check it out.
And here's the one the fans have been waiting for. Big Jim Dunn, a fireman from La Mirada, California. Goes about 240 pounds. Jammed into the cockpit of a AA fuel dragster. John, the farthest he's ever gone in national competition was to runner-up here at the Winternationals some years ago, where he was defeated by the Hawaiian. The crew making a lot of hand signals to Dunn, trying to get him in the puddles of bleach. Garlits Garlits already headed towards the starting line. Garlits wearing not only does Garlits have a rear-engine car, he's wearing a full coverage helmet. The breather mask is hidden, and he peers through a window in the helmet. We've seen a lot of bike racers and Indianapolis racers use these helmets, but this is the first time we've seen one on a drag racer.
Garlits has had the best time in the Top Fuel, 6.7, and I think, Steve, you indicated he looked as though he really hasn't had to push it yet.
These drivers are about the same age, in their middle 30s, and Dunn is going to have to get off the starting line first, based on their previous elapsed times. But getting out ahead of Garlits is next to impossible.
Oh, he really comes off that light, doesn't he?
The incredible Don Garlits. Dunn's motor lays down on him and he gives up. It was fruitless. 6:70, the elapsed time for Don Garlits. The announcer right now is saying, ladies and gentlemen, Don Garlits, and that's the only introduction he needs. The unique rear-engine sensation.
It would appear, Steve, that Garlits will have a free run at Top Fuel Eliminator.
What a shame. After the sensational racing we've had, Larry Bowers and Kenny Safford not able to make the call. And it must have really been serious, because any Top Fuel owner in the pit area would have loaned them an engine, and you can change them in about 45 minutes. So it must have been something they discovered at the last minute. So we're sorry to say we're going to climax the Winternationals. And look at Garlits. He's already shaking hands, and he hasn't left the starting line. From Seffner, Florida. And believe me, after this win and this new rear-engine dragster, he's the undisputed king. And I think for the fans' sake, he smoked the tires on purpose.
He did a little bit. He
I
put on
think he
quite
did.
a run for him. I don't know as how Safford could have caught him. That's not to demean Safford's car or the equipment or his ability as a driver, but Garlits, as you indicated so many times throughout this telecast, appeared to be the class of the Top Fuel Eliminators in contention here today, and his car probably was not really pressed at any time.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask you anyway. The future of the rear-engine Top Fuel dragster.
Well, I think it's here to stay. I believe that we'll see lots of cars built now because obviously the car is safer. The driver, I ran all day long, never got anything on my helmet or anything. It was just a nice, clean ride. The noise is not objectionable. You're not getting anything on your face. I believe we'll see a lot of cars. I believe this is the beginning of the end of the slingshot as we know it today.
The rear-engine dragster is certainly not a new idea, but it was never successful mainly due to handling problems, and you have absolutely none.
That's right. You notice on the second day I got a little out of shape about halfway down when I ran in an oil slick and had no problem coming out of it, which was a good test. And then the smoking the tires there on that run shows that the car handled very nicely even with the tires loose. So I really don't know why they never have worked before. I think possibly it was a combination of tires and clutch. The things that we have today make it possible, where they didn't have those a few years ago.
Well, you are truly the Big Daddy after this.
Within 18 months of this race, the slingshot dragster would then become obsolete in Top Fuel, as by this photo of the last one. But something else happened in April 20th, 1973 that is very significant. A lady by the name of Shirley Modowney, trying to get her Top Fuel license in Canada, well, her license was signed by none other than Don Garlits himself, creating one of the biggest rivalries of all time.
Well, Don, you've seen it all as one of the pioneers in drag racing. For you, how did it all begin?
Well, for me, it began a long time ago in 1950, just a kid out of high school on a little hot rod Ford. And, it's come from that, racing on old abandoned airports to here at Indianapolis, probably the greatest race in drag racing.
Don, we hear talks of your retirement. 42 years old, 25 years in the sport. World Championship perhaps in your grasp this year. If you were to win this weekend and win the World Championship, might you hang up your helmet?
It's a good possibility, Chris. I've been at it. I'm 43. I've been in racing 25 years. I've made a lot of money. I've had a lot of friends. I've had a lot of good times. My family is pressuring me, They say, you've been doing it a long time and the chances are getting greater and greater that maybe you'll have a severe accident. I don't feel that I'll have an accident, but, you know, it's hard to keep going if you keep getting the pressure from home. You know, I got 2 daughters, 14 and 15, and if I win this world championship and for NHRA, I've never competed in that. It would just about give me everything that's ever been offered in the sport. I've won it, and I tell you, I'm going to give it some serious thought because, like I say, I'm 43 years old. I'll be 44 before the next season starts, and I'm really going to think about it this winter.
For Big Daddy Don Garlits, victory today would be the other side of the coin, perhaps the entrance into retirement. After all, it's been since 1950 he has dominated this sport. Win today would put him close to the World Championship, and if he wins it, he said before, he might call it quits. His 4th national triumph here at Indianapolis. 5.93 seconds, 242.58 miles an hour for the man from Seffner, Florida. Way to go. All right. Well, in front again, huh?
Yeah, looks like I did it again, Chris.
Well, you sure did, and congratulations, Don. Maybe that World Championship will come your way this year.
Well, I'm knocking on the door right now, that's for sure. That puts me about 1,100 points ahead of Beck. Did you hear the ET?
Yes, Don, it was 593. And while you're taking your jacket off, let's have another look. Shirley had the bad lane, and at the start, she spun wheels and lost traction. Don, did you feel any special pressure going into the final? She being a woman, and the World Championship coming up, and possible retirement?
I've won the Nationals a lot of times and a lot of other races, and so that actually takes the pressure off of me. If I didn't win here this afternoon, I could say, well, I've won it 2 or 3 times. So, but somebody, you know, Shirley, you got to realize the pressure was really on her because here she's got further in drag racing right now than any woman ever has. I mean, you know, runner-up, you got to understand that that's a fantastic thing. This is the U.S. Nationals.
Shirley, come on over here.
Congratulations. Oh, man. This was only the U.S. Nationals, and, you know, all those guys, where are they?
I know that you just had it on kill.
Well, you know.
That's a compliment, too.
Right, I didn't trust you. Never. Oh, what do you think? Did I make the final decision? What do we all run? Did I make the right decision?
The ladies are disappointed they're supposed to cry.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to cry today because I'm happy today. How can I possibly cry?
Well, she put on a hell of a race. She had a bad lane. What the heck?
Well, you 2 guys gave us a great show. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Don. It's a pleasure racing you.
Have we seen him at the Nationals for the last time? We asked his wife, Pat, earlier if she thought he'd retire.
He says that it may soon end.
I don't believe him.
You don't believe him?
No. He loves to race too much.
Top Fuel Eliminator, the only race remaining at this 1975 NHRA World Finals here at Ontario Motor Speedway. And this man has a lot riding on it. He has already publicly announced that he will retire at the end of the 1975 season if he does 2 things. If he sets the record at 250 miles an hour, he has already done that, and if he wins the World Championship. He is 1 race away from doing that. Big Daddy himself, Don Garlits, in what will be his final run in Nationals competition. As he announced previously to this race, he would retire if he set the record at 250, and he won the World Championship. This is the replay of the big one, when Don Garlits annexed his first ever NHRA World Champion title and walked away with some $38,000. Don Garlits, he makes it, was quite a distance ahead of Herm Peterson on the final run. That time again in the final, 5.74 seconds, a speed of 247 miles an hour plus. So Don Garlits putting together an incredible string of elapsed times and top speeds, over 250 miles an hour in qualifying, elapsed times, the low ever at a 5.63 seconds. Don Garlits, your world champion for 1975. Absolutely incredible performance by the man synonymous with Top Fuel drag racing.
Well, Don, you got a little oil, but you won the race. You got the record at 250. You got the record at 563. Tremendous show. plus the World Championship.
Yeah, all in one day, yeah.
Not too bad, is it?
No, it's all right. It was a very exciting day.
Any thoughts right now going through your mind?
What would you like me to say?
I don't know. Say what you think.
Well, I think that this is going to be it for me. I think I'm going to hang it up. I've got about 4 little match races left, and I'm going to finish those, and I think you won't be seeing me anymore.
Don, I got to tell you, I can't think of any man any greater in drag racing history. Here comes Herm Peterson, the guy you beat in the final. Herman?
It's no disgrace to lose to the best guy there is in drag racing, I'm telling you. Right there. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Don, we've been trying to talk you into retiring for about 5 years, and I know you wanted this title, and I couldn't tell you how proud we are that you got it.
Well, thank you, Walter.
The hard way.
Thank you.
Just happy with you. I know we're going to be seeing a lot of you because you can't stay away, even if you're not driving.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Well, as we all know, Don did not stay in retirement very long. Him and his buddy Art Malone teamed up once again, came out and won the U.S. Nationals, won another championship. He was the first person to go over 270 miles per hour in a top fuel dragster, and the list goes on. But he also has more innovations, as you can see with this Swamp Rat here, which has an enclosed cockpit, something that is used today. So when talking about this video and being the GOAT, even though Don doesn't have the most NHRA wins, the person who does, which is John Force, will tell you he is in fact the GOAT. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to do, and Don, this is for you. I hope you get to see this video, and I would love to come down and talk with you and chat. So until next time, this is Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. I will catch you later.